Hello, today we're going to be learning how to access Google Forms. So to do that, let's open our Google account. I already have mine open. So to access Google Forms, first we're going to open our Google Drive. To get there, click next to your name on this thing that says Google Apps. From the drop-down menu, we'll go ahead and click on Drive. So this is your Google Drive. Usually you have 15 to 30 gigabytes of free storage with your Google email account. And you can also create files using Google Docs. You can create spreadsheets using Google Sheets. You can use Google Show to make slideshows. But today we'll be learning how to use Google Forms. So to create a new Google form, I'll go here down to New. Then I'll select More, and I'll see the Google form pop up. I'll go ahead and select that, and it'll open up a form in a separate window. So now, to create this form, all I need to do is edit. So if I want to title my Google form, I can title it Party RSVP, for example. Any additional instructions or information I want for the user to see, I can put here. So I'll just type, please respond so that we can get a head count. And you can put as much information as you want in there. And then from here on, we'll look at how to add questions. So we'll replace untitled question with whatever question we want to ask. So I'll ask, what is your name? As you can see, Google automatically chose the format of the response to short answer. It's going to allow the user to input text, and we will be able to see that text when we look at the responses. So that's the first question. Let's add another question. Let's ask, what time will the person be arriving? So I'm asking the person what time they're going to be arriving. You can use this time feature, or if you want, you can use multiple choice. This will allow you to input different options. So I could do 9 a.m. I could do a second option, 10 a.m. Third option, 12 a.m. We can keep adding as many options as we want. We can also use this add other option. This will allow the user to put in a custom option and then select it. That's very useful if you have some flexibility in your activity or event or whatever it is you're doing. So that's a multiple choice question. Please note that when the user is accessing the form, they're only going to be able to select one of these options. If you want them to be able to select multiple options, we'll go ahead and create a new question. What sides will you be providing? And so now we see we have the check boxes answer format set. So we can just put in whatever options we want. We can add an add other option. This allows for some flexibility. This is going to allow the person who's accessing the form to select as many as they want. If they want to put an other option for a custom item that they might be bringing, that'll allow them to do that. So there are also some other types of questions. If you want a more complex layout, you could have a paragraph. If you're going to have a more long, detailed answer, you can have a drop-down menu. You can have a linear scale, multiple choice grid, a checkbox grid, or you can have a date and time. Those are options that are more advanced. This is just a basic idea of how to set up a form, but feel free to explore those and use them if you are interested. Also, if you're interested, and if you create a lot of the same forms, you can import questions. So I'll create a new question. If I want to import questions from an old form that I've made, I'll click import. This will show me previous forms that I've created. So I'll just select this one, for example, and then it will show me all the questions from that form. I can select one of those questions and it will place that question in my form. I'll import the question and it'll show up there. So that saves you a lot of time from having to rewrite the same questions constantly or always reusing the same form, which isn't ideal. So that's a very handy feature that you should definitely try to use. This button here, you can add a title and description to a specific section of your questions. You can move that around up and down. Also note that you can reorder questions using this. Just drag your mouse to the top of the question and move it up and down to wherever you want it to be. If you want to add a photo or video for some reason, you can also do that. You can add a section. That's more advanced if you're making a really nice form. But that's the basics of entering questions. As far as settings go, open the gear icon and you'll see a few different things. You can collect email addresses. If you don't select that, it will not require the user to enter their email address. I'll select this and response receipts. Once a user fills out the form and submits it, you have the option of sending them what they submitted. So if they need a reminder, that might be a useful feature. I tend to always have response receipts on just so that the user has confirmation that they have successfully filled out the form. Also, you can restrict if you're part of an organization that uses Google for their organizational email. You can restrict your responses to users within that organization. I generally do not have this checked. If you have users that are outside of your organization or if you use their personal email accounts, if you have that enabled, it's just another hoop that has to be jumped for people to fill it out. If you want to limit to one response, you can do that. Also, that'll just keep track of how many people have responded. Generally, I don't have that checked either, just in case someone makes a mistake and they need to go in and adjust it. You can also choose what respondents can do. So if they want to edit after they submit, if you want to let them edit their submission, that's a useful feature. If you want to let them see summary charts or text responses of the other respondents, you can let them do that. This might be helpful if you're trying to get an even amount of, for example, sides versus desserts. I don't know. So that's another feature. You can also change how the form is laid out. You can randomly shuffle the questions if you're interested. You can show a progress bar. You can have your own confirmation message once they submit the form if you're interested. You can make this a quiz and grade it if you're interested. That's more for, I guess, academics. So those are the settings. Here you can preview your form, and this will show you exactly what it looks like. So you can see here, this is where I would enter additional information. Here I have my multiple choice. Here's my short answer. Here are a couple questions I didn't fill out, and then here's a submit button. And then here's the option to send me a response. So if we go back to our form, once you can choose to send it a couple different ways. You can enter the email addresses here. You can include the form in the email, and that'll actually include the questions in the email. Sometimes, depending on what destination email addresses you're using, this works or it doesn't work. So the way I typically send a form is I go back to my email account. I'll create a new message. I'll put the subject form RSVP, for example. I'll write out my text. Hello, please fill out the form. And then to insert a link to the form, I go down here to the triangle which says insert files using Google Drive. I'll check that. It'll pop up a window. And then my form should be, if I was just working on it, it'll be the most recent form. You can see I haven't given it a name here, but I can insert it, and that link will be on there. They can click on it, it'll open up in a new tab, and they can fill it out there. So that's the way I found to work best. So also, if you want to title your form, you can click up here on the top left hand side. Usually if you click in there, it'll automatically sync the title of the form to the name of the file. So that's a useful feature. So now let's look at responses and how to manage those. I'm going to use a file or a form that already has responses that I've used in the past. So I'm going to open this one up. I have 7 responses, and I can scroll down and see all the information. I can view it by question and look at it that way. I can look at each individual. The way I typically like to look at responses is if you click this green icon, it says view responses in sheets. This will automatically create a spreadsheet for you to view your responses. It'll put it in columns, and then typically I've already opened this spreadsheet. If you're opening it for the first time, it'll confirm that you want to create a slide sheet. Just go ahead and say yes to that, and it'll open up in a new window eventually. Also, while that's loading, you can also turn off accepting responses. So if you had set a deadline previously and you want to limit responses or prevent responses after that deadline, you can say I'm not accepting responses, and that form will no longer be able to be edited by a user. So now you can see I have my information here. I have columns. I have a timestamp column which says when the response was submitted. I have all of my questions and the responses there. So that's a very useful feature for looking at that information. Also, if you want to change the theme and the color scheme, you can do that also. That's one option. But other than that, guys, that's the basics of how to use Google Forms. If there's any questions, please feel free to comment below or reach out to me if you know me personally, and I'll be happy to answer those. Thank you. Hey guys, one last thing on your Google form. If you want to make sure that a response is required to submit the form, you can use this icon down here. If you want to make the question optional, you just unselect it. And if it's grayed out, you'll see that it's not required. If you want to duplicate the question, that's what this is here down here for. This trash can is to delete the question. There's also a couple features here. If you want a description of the question, you can enter that here, and that'll enter a description text entry that you can put in. If you want response validation, so this is kind of like error checking. So if you have, say, a number and you want to make sure the user actually entered a number, you can create that here, but that's generally more advanced. You can also remove those features if you don't want to use them. Those are just a couple other things. Thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you.